So, Andrew, thank you very much for joining us. Alan,
You're welcome.
thank you for sitting through 3 hours of traffic.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
No worries.
I just need to tell you that I was up at 3:30 a.m. to get here today as well. So, a bit of respect in my direction as well. Thank you.
A lot.
Explains
a lot of respect.
So we're going to do another Q&A session like we have recently experienced with or experimented with James and Aldo. And we've had a few questions come through. Alan's had a couple of questions. I've had a couple of questions. Andy's got no questions. And hopefully he can contribute in some way. Yeah. And
I have one question.
you have one question?
Oh, yeah. Why are there 3 gingers in one room?
Yeah, it's pretty aggressive.
Who organized that?
That's pretty aggressive,
That
if
looks
I'm
awkward.
honest.
It doesn't look awkward.
It does look awkward.
Does it? I was maybe responsible for that. I didn't think about it, to be honest. I just thought that you are a great designer and Andrew's a great modeler, and I wanted to introduce you guys. And
But then it's okay.
okay, because I only just realized
Then
this
I
now.
feel comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
To not try and repeat the same joke twice, Alan has kindly, after I badgered him, agreed to bring this beautiful model along. And there are simply no words to describe the level of detail on this. And I'm blown away. I think everybody can agree that it's pretty special. So
It is awesome. It's a great talking point.
Thank you,
Great
guys.
details, and you can tell from the form that it's done by some pros. It's really good.
not by your...
He's censoring himself now. You notice that?
Okay. I was going to ask if it was... No. Okay. So I have a couple of questions. I don't have notes, but I do have my phone, and I got sent the question to my phone, so I will repeat this. The first question is from Mr. Daniel Rauch. I believe that's how it's pronounced. In my experience, there are always divided opinions and prejudices of industrial design and car designers about the other discipline. Car designers are only stylists and are less able to problem solve and think conceptually, and industrial designers are not able to design a car. Is there any truth to this?
Agree to disagree, I think. I mean, I think it only depends on the person, on the state of mind. But I've met many designers, car designers in my life, and many of them are problem solving. And I think it's the same with industrial designers. I don't think we can just categorize industrial designers and car designers like that. I think it's a state of mind. So maybe you can find more of them, like in the car industry, maybe the stylists. Maybe it's just a maybe, but I met, and maybe also it's because I feel that I'm like that myself. So maybe I gather with other designers that share the same idea. But I am not considering myself a stylist. I love actually think about problem solving. Yeah.
I think it's a common misconception to think that a car designer just sits down and draws some lines on a piece of paper and press the send to make the car button, and you get this at the other end.
I just get a printout at my desk saying "make this car" or something. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean,
it's not that way.
Exactly. And although it is massively a team effort, there is an endless amount of problems to solve when putting together a complex product like a car.
Yeah.
There's something to be said that unless you're working in a small automotive design studio, 9 times out of 10, an automotive manufacturer is involved. They're quite large, and you've got a mass of people that are maybe doing the problem solving, like product placement, what this car is for, where is it going to be, and who's it for, and so you have a separation as a designer maybe, and you are brought in to add an aesthetical beauty to the car. Whereas quite a lot of product design is I was a product designer at one point, very early in my career, not a fully fledged one, not a particularly great one either, I would say, whatever. You are right at the forefront of the product, and it's a very small, tiny little studio, and you have to think about everything. It's not a given problem that like it has four wheels and it drives on the city or drives on a racetrack such as this. It's completely open. So there is that side of it. Why I would see that some automotive designers are only perceived as stylists, but there's problem solving all the time, three-dimensionally, all the time, every day. Solving corners, like you produce a sketch and you're a seasoned designer. Even you, I can imagine you're producing a sketch and then you have to adjust your expectations when you see it in 3D. Yeah. You're problem solving all the time, both with...
But maybe the person asking the question is meaning problem solving for the society, maybe.
Maybe.
But I guess automotive industry is always solving problems. It's constantly evolving, no?
I think it's a huge oversimplification to say that, you know, even in a big OEM where you've got teams doing different things, and as a designer you presented with a package, and even if you were going to dumb it down in one sentence to say, okay, there's a package, simply skin over it is...
It's not ever simple, is it?
No,
we all know this.
It's very, very, it's very complex. I mean, I'm not a car designer, so I can't necessarily speak on your behalf. But you know, I've built a lot of cars, and we have to, you know, even at our level, there's a lot of problem solving that we have to do when we are presented with these things. And quite often your job is to work out what those solutions are going to be.
I feel honestly my job, as soon as I leave the 2D phase, it's only problem solving. Because when we are discussing with the modeler, as you said, we are always facing something that I had in mind in 2D. But then I realized, okay, it's a bit more complicated than this. I'm going to have to find a solution to make it work into 3D. And to me, I mean, on one car, there are many like problem-solving situations that we have to face. So,
but this relationship is always dynamic. Sometimes you can have a solution solved for you, and sometimes you have to push the agenda to get the result that you want and push the modeler to get to the aesthetic that you're striving for. It's a very dynamic business of problem solving, and I always think you're a little bit harsh on yourself that you've worked in situations where you've had to solve the issue. That's part of your job when you're modeling a car, is the two-dimensional form is not working around this corner, so you have to construct it in a way that it has the feeling, the aesthetic, of the initial concept, whatever it is, and then you get that in, but three-dimensionally sound.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I mean. Yeah, you are drawing a line in 2D, and you have the feeling that this line will always look the same in 3D. But then, as soon as you start turning, it's S-ing or it's doing a weird thing. And that's where you have to take a decision, and that's where you are coming up to problem solving.
But I mean, just to go back to the question, is we've clearly in that last sentence there, we've stated that we're at this smaller level of problem solving and conscious design, and I get the impression that the person that asked the question is more of a holistic, a larger perspective of our responsibility. That's what I believe.
Design. That's why I said maybe he's referring to problem solving in the society.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that probably needs to be discussed on this point as well is that I don't really know what it's like in a product design environment or in a consultancy environment from that respect, and you could probably talk a bit more about this. But within an automotive capacity, and within a big car company, for example, there are teams doing market research, and so those things often dictate a lot of the decisions as well with regards to problem solving. So that might be something that why a product designer might feel, okay, well, there's not really anything going on upstairs.
But don't you think that it's the same approach for a product designer? Don't you think somebody is coming to him with the problem solved, and then he just has to put a skin on it, a cool design?
Well, that's what I would.
As a consultancy, I agree. But if you're in the business of creating products from thin air, then maybe you're. I don't know what your starting point is, but maybe it's a niche of some description that you're trying to fill, or that there is this problem and you're creating a product to solve this problem. But hey, I'm not a product designer. It was just very early on in my career. I don't want to talk for them at all.
But then I would say that it's the same perspective with startups.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It can vary so much from company to company, and depending on the size of the place. I mean, if it's super small, one person will be doing a lot more people's jobs, but maybe not to the depth that somebody just focusing on one particular thing will be doing.
That's true, completely.
So ultimately the responsibility is not necessarily less or more, but it's made up of different things. So it might be that, like, I have to say that within an automotive capacity, within a large company, you do sometimes have the luxury of being able to just be responsible for one particular thing. And in a smaller environment, that has a lot of benefits to it, but it also means that quite often there isn't like a guy worrying about this and another person worrying about that. You've often got to wear many different hats.
Absolutely. In a small studio, that's exactly what
that was the case in Cherry, for example.
Yeah.
We did, for example, the official the shooting. All the photos of the show cars were done in-house by the designers. Like Guillermo and I and other people, we would bring the material and adjust the lights ourselves and take the photos, and those would be the official photos that you see at the press.
That's mad, eh?
And that's what I like.
But that's I can't.
Yeah, but that hands-on thing is kind of cool.
Yeah, I like that. And then we were the guys going to the suppliers and then taking care. I guess that's also in other companies, but we were literally 3 guys flying to where the show car was built and staying there for weeks and taking care of the whole build. Yeah, every day, not 24 hours a day, but sometimes like 16 hours a day. Yeah, but that's what I like also about it. Yeah.
I also have worked in smaller teams where if you like what you're talking about now, where designers or it could be Alias modelers as well that are doing their own visualization as well. And sometimes it does also happen that those things are not just used internally, but they are actually used for press images as well. And
I mean, it's useful to have an overlap. I think a lot of automotive guys have an overlap, whether design, Alias, visualization. You're having to integrate in a team. So if you have some overlap in order to make it easier for the next person, then it's useful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Alan, do you want to get a question?
Yeah. Okay. So I know the question is quite tough because it's a question that I often had to try to give it an answer. So there is this guy, Ismail, I think. He's asking...
He smiled?
Ismail.
Oh, that's his name.
Yeah. I would like to know how to design based on theme and connecting the user to the vehicle and inspiration.
On film, sorry.
On theme.
On theme. On a theme.
A theme, yeah. A theme.
Theme, sorry.
That's always, for me, that's always hard to explain what's a theme, because it was hard for me also to understand. As I told you in the last podcast, I've learned that in Japan, because they were telling me that my design were too graphic. Which is actually, I realized in time that French are really approaching design this way, like really graphical instead of surfacing somehow. So I had to work hard on that and learn, okay, what's a theme. And for me, Japan at the time was the best education I got to learn that, because again, it was part of Toyota where I was working. It was Daihatsu, so Daihatsu Toyota, and we were really learning the Toyota way of doing cars. And I remember that they came to me with a kind of small book explaining themes. And I could see, okay, so basically what's a theme from my understanding, it's looking how the volume of the car are intersecting together. And so they had those super nice, very simple approach of designing a car. So 4 wheels and then a cube intersecting with a sphere. And then the next step, you could see the cube merging a bit more with the sphere, and step by step, and then it would become like a super understandable and clear idea of where you are taking the design to. And so it's always difficult for me to explain what's a theme. I understand it now, and my approach of designing a car has changed a lot. Now I'm decomposing my design into different volumes intersecting together, and I'm trying to find what I call the killer theme. It's a theme that is so simple that everybody should have thought about it, and then when you see it, it makes a lot of sense. I experienced that when I saw the Renault RS 2027, that Formula One car. Mm-hmm. The theme is super clear. It's a kind of a water drop intersecting with an oval, and it's super clear when you see the car. You can almost understand what was the approach of the designer, how he decomposed the volumes, and then I had the experience to work with the Renault designer, and it was really inspiring, because that's really how they approach things, and it's really inspiring to work with those guys, because it's a new approach of design in my experience. Yeah, so for me it's a bit hard to answer that question to make it clear for the viewer. But yeah, that's how I would describe a theme. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Well, I mean, as a modeler, I don't know if you want to add to this first, but as a modeler, you need a designer to have a strong theme, because when it's coming to finalizing the design, we're at that stage. And if you have a strong theme that I can understand and you can describe to me, I can implement that theme across the car. When it comes to this car in front of us, in terms of intersecting volumes, but a theme for me could also be the language, how everything is solved. Themes can be size of radiuses, language of surface, whether they're full, flat, a lot of lead in, not a lot of lead in, so creating a more producty style or more organic style. These are all surface themes or surface language, I would say. And if you have that in your head and that's what you can describe to me, I can then go about making sure my work is incorporating those themes as well. In terms of like the theme that you're saying is very pure intersecting volumes, that's what you would describe to me in a sketch, and that would be the main design of the car. And then further on would be the themes of how the car is finished, how the surfaces intersect each other, and the language of the surface in between, and then getting that consistently across the car to create a concise product that looks the same front to rear.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's also one important thing of a clear theme, is that I always explain to the students or to the guys I'm working with, a car is a complete object. It's not a front, a side, and a rear. Mm-hmm. And sometimes designers have the tendency to forget that, and they are not focusing on the complete product, but only on the side, or only on the front, or only on the rear. And then you have a car that doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. A car is just a product on which you add 4 wheels. But you should be able to remove those 4 wheels, and then you just look at a sculpture.
A sculpture.
A sculpture.
I mean, I see that quite often in larger companies, that there's an initial theme, and it's done by one designer, and that theme is chosen, and other designers are still involved, and they're doing their own versions of this car product, whatever it is, and there's a section where they choose maybe one front to go with one rear, and then this side. And yes, though that front by itself, this rear and this side are fantastic, and it's better than the original theme. But
it doesn't work altogether.
It can, but it becomes very. It doesn't become concise, and in the end, maybe not as successful if you just stay true to that initial concept.
This is maybe a question for you, with regards to when you're a student, you want to do something that's never been done before. So the tendency is to sometimes overcook things, be a bit more outrageous, and what that can quite often mean is that you do have completely different things happening on the different parts of the car, and to carry on that point, there are companies that are very, very that make it quite literal, of like the front has this construction and the rear needs to have like almost a mirror of what's happening over the front, and that to me is also not necessarily the answer either. The question is, like, we can show some images of the back of this car later, but the question is, like, how would you, when you look at the back of this car, it clearly fits what's happening on the front, but it's not a literal mirror of what's happening on the front. So the question is, on something like this, okay, it's a homage to something that's already come before, but is there any reason why you think this works so well? Why these two things complement each other so well?
Because, for example, the approach for me on this car was, okay, you have 2 main air intakes in the front, and then a central one, and so all those proportions and all those elements that are happening in the front, I'm thinking that there could be an air channel and go all the way through the car until the rear. And so if you look at the component, the element that are composing the front, you can find somehow the same composition, even though it's not literally copy paste, but the composition is kind of same. You have that central air intake in the front is becoming the rear diffuser. It's placed at the same area. Those 2 air intake are becoming 2 air outlet in the back. So it's the composition is same.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's how you create a relationship. It doesn't have to be, there was this guy in Shanghai, he had this funny expression, your face doesn't have to look like your ass. It's true. But it has to be harmonious.
Okay. Yeah. Complementary.
Yeah, complementary.
One thing I like about this is before we have all the advancements in aerodynamics and everything, where they make quite messy cars. You look at high performance race cars nowadays, both Le Mans and Formula One, they're very busy, very busy. And what's very cool about this is it has that aerodynamic, fluid dynamics, the ground effect cars, for example, was it the 956?
The 956 and 962, yeah.
Literally my most favorite object on the face of this planet. I mean, that thing for me is perfect. And when I was racing RC cars, I had that as a body shell for one of my cars when I was racing 112. Fantastic. And this has that. It doesn't have all the bits and bobs, all the winglets and everything that obviously create huge amounts of downforce, but it's got that clean aesthetical style.
But actually it does it if you think about it, because you were mentioning the 956, and this car hold the record of the Nordschleife for 35 years, I think.
And it wasn't until the Porsche
until the 919.
Yeah. Ground effect car, incredible.
So, and this car looks quite pure.
Yeah,
honestly.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. Do we really need all those features?
Yeah. This is when it comes to motorsport, I'm all for going back to ground effect again, so we can have aesthetical objects going around the track. When they really try really hard with all the different wings to create as much downforce as possible, it looks like a very busy object going around. And I'm into motorsport, like watching motor racing and everything. Also for the aesthetical beauty that comes from the engineering. And those like Can-Am cars and the Porsche, the Rothmans Porsche, the 9.5s, it's just stunning.
Yeah,
and that's it for me. That's part of the beauty. The Mercedes as well. The
C12 or
yeah. I think so. The silver thing is just stunning.
Sauber,
made by Sauber, exactly. Yeah. And this has that for me.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually, it's funny you said that, because it's clearly the inspiration. The proportions are based on the 962, and many like most of inspirations, it was the Sauber, the 962, 956. So yeah, obviously all those old cars were part of the inspiration for this model. But we tried to keep it as pure and as emotional as possible. And actually I've got many questions back in the days. Is the car, have you tested the car aerodynamically? And no, the answer is no. We did what we felt was good, for aero, but I'm not a aero guy. I have some basis, obviously.
Did you come up with new solutions for the details of the car? So
so obviously, as everybody know, the 918 came in 2015, I think, as far as I remember. And it had those really cool top-mounted exhaust. So of course, at the time when we started the project, it was a must to have those exhausts located there. So and because also it was proven that it's bringing more aero, I think, and better packaging.
So I'm just thinking about the driver getting burnt on his head, but obviously he's got a helmet on. So.
Man, you're on drugs.
Carry on.
He doesn't need anybody else in the room, does he?
And obviously, because it's an homage to those old cars like 917, 962 and stuff like that. Of course, 917, I wanted to have a fan, because that was really iconic for Porsche at the time.
That was if I remember, the Golf with the flat 12.
Yeah, the 917 had a fan. Also 917K, 917 long tail. What else? Also RS 60 had a fan. So they were often running those horizontal fan, and I thought it was a cool detail. So the idea behind the fan as a modern interpretation would be that during the race, you can use it either to get the heat out of the car. So basically, the fan could rotate in both ways. So it could either, you could use it as a downforce. So if it would rotate in the other way, the air would push the car to the ground, or you could use it in the normal way to get it down out of the car. Yeah. So that was the inspiration for that.
So when you were building this car, what did you present to the modelers for this? So what was your process? You had an idea. How did explain how you went about?
Okay, so what happened is that I did a sketch. One night I did a sketch just for fun, imagining basically, because at the time Porsche could not appear in that video game that we all know, because actually they were licensed to another video game. But actually now they are joining, and they start teasing their model for the video game. And so I was imagining, okay, what if Porsche could participate to that competition of doing a concept car for this video game. And one night I decided to give it a try, and my approach was that of course it needed to be outrageous. Because it's video game, so we don't have to imagine a car for real life. But I was always thinking, okay, even though it should be outrageous, somehow it should also be feasible. So I always kept in mind this feasible way of doing it. And so I was thinking the history of the brand, and of course I came up with the idea of doing a modern interpretation of the long tail, because this car was really successful and really outrageous and unusual. So I came up with those proportions. I did a sketch, which I put on my blog at the time, and actually I got reposted by Car Design News, and so I saw that it got some interest, and I went to my friend Marcos. So he was my modeler in Cherry. And we were already working together for quite a long time, because he was doing the production car I was working on and the show car I was working on. And I told him, hey, would you be interested? Because apparently it got some interest, because I got reposted by Car Design News. So would you get some interest in helping me building the car after work? And so what I brought him first was that initial sketch. And then I started, so it was a 3/4 rear. So it was quite enough to set up the volumes. As I told you, I gave him the wheelbase of the 962, and the overall proportion it was a mix between 918 and 962. And so we started setting up a package together. We were using a Mudbox. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he didn't want to, he's an Alias modeler, but he didn't want to jump on Alias, because if we start with wrong proportion, then it would be fucked up. So we set it up the proportions together on Mudbox for a month and a half or 2 months to have really, really a good idea of the final package. And once we had those proportions that we both like, we said, okay, now it's time to jump on Alias. And and that's it. That's how we developed.
And he learned using Mudbox for that specifically.
He was already interested, but he really started using it for this project. Okay. Marcos, as I told you last time, he's a freak. He always wants to develop new skills. Again, he's the one who did all the VRED for the car, all the HDR. We went in Shanghai, in the city. We took some photos at 5 a.m., like sunrise. We took some photos with like absolutely nobody, and it was like super exciting.
Cool. I love that about the images, like, are just incredible. And then when you know that they've walked the track, and it's very cool.
That's the craziest story. Yeah, we woke up at 4 a.m. to take a cab to go to the track, to be there at 5:30, because it's an hour and a half away from the center. So we took that cab. We had 2 electric scooter, those foldable electric scooter in the trunk of the cab. And once there, we drove to the track. And Marcos, obviously, he was learning Chinese, so he was able to speak some stuff. And we saw a guy at the gate of the track. And we were like, okay, we are fucked. And Marcos said some bullshit to the guy, and he said, "Okay, let's go." And we managed to access the track. Nobody on there, and we worked the track, 1 lap by foot, and each curve we took some HDR, photos, HDR. We were already like, we were talking. It was super nice because we were like talking, okay, we're gonna place the car like this, and maybe it's gonna be 2 cars and they're gonna be chasing each other. So we were already visualizing the final scene, and so we could take the perfect shot. Okay, we want to be this angle or more on top, or it was the memories of this project. It's the best in my career, because we really pushed the boundaries, like
It's outrageous. I mean, I keep saying the same thing, but I mean the level of details. I mean, you said last time that you wanted this thing packed full of details, and
we wanted the car. So there were some key things to this project. First, as I told you, we had the same mindset. We said, okay, if we start, we finish, because I don't want to use your free time, and so we don't finish it, because I would feel really guilty using your free time and then one day I give up, and so we started with the same mindset. He had the same mindset. He said, okay, if I accept to do this job, because there were no money, only the passion, and he said, okay, if I accept to do this job, I give you my promise that I go until the end. And it was like that for everything. So and the key thing was, when we're gonna put the first images on the internet, we want people to believe it's
existing.
And it's official. Mm-hmm. We wanted people to believe it's an official.
Well, it looks so official, yeah.
So that's why we pushed, and we've managed to keep the thing like secret, even though sometimes, of course, at the very end I was starting teasing, because I wanted people to know that something is coming. So we did a couple of teasers, but we really wanted to have a strong impact in the car industry when it was coming out, and it did. And the most impressive thing until today is so we published this. It was on a Sunday, and Sunday at 9 p.m. Shanghai time. So it was like 7 hours. So it was 2:00 p.m. in Europe, in France, and the day after, in the morning, we were in double page of a car magazine. They already printed the thing, and there was already an article, 2 pages, talking about the project. No contact from the magazine, nothing. They just saw the thing on the internet, they took it, and they put it in the magazine to be the first. And my father-in-law was buying this magazine every week, and he sent me a picture. He said, because he knew obviously about the project, and he said, hey, how? And I had the same question. I was like, how they did that? In less than 24 hours, we were in the magazine. So quite happy with the result. And with the success of the car. And obviously, as you know, 1 year later, Porsche contacting us to build this and to do a YouTube video. So. Mm-hmm.
I've sent you the questions just in case my phone dies.
Sure.
So you should have them now already. I'll read one just while you get those up. But the first question is from Fabrizio Orsi de Paula. How does Alan see the role of the designer evolving? I know that he said last time he doesn't do 3D, but as a student, it seems that there's a huge focus on being proficient in a lot of disciplines.
That's good that he's coming back with this question, because as we discussed last time, my answers brought a lot of discussions, and I got approached, and you got approached with some people coming to us quite concerned or unhappy with my answer, again, as I told them and as we discussed together, I always said that's my point of view and it's only regarding me.
And your particular workflow process.
And my particular workflow. I don't know how to model. I'm being honest. I'm not pretending that I know how to do everything. Again, there are people that I respect a lot that know. They know how to design and model to a high level, a high quality level. I decided early on in my career, and that might be a mistake. People would agree, people would not agree, and that's the good thing. We have different opinions, but I decided early on in my career that I wanted to focus on doing perfect drawings, perfect sketches, and to be understood by people like you guys. And I worked hard towards to achieve this goal. And I think, we can see the result. I did quite well because I can have a communication with a skilled modeler, which I'm not, and he can translate my ideas into 3D. And what I liked about my relationship with Marcos and with other modelers I had is that I have skills in my field, and he has the skills that can increase the quality of the surfacing that I would not have because I'm not a modeler. Marcos, I'm using him because we are talking about this project. He has this sensibility, and I was impressed about that. He was telling me, okay, I'm gonna add a bit of tension in that. It's gonna give you a better quality of highlights. And sorry guys, for maybe people are gonna disagree with me, but I don't think that a designer can achieve both at 100%. I think Marcos was able to give his little touch that I don't have to the surfacing to really make it even better. So, okay, I'm sure, and it was the case already at the time I was studying, we had to learn Alias, but I'm the way I am, and I said, sorry, I don't see myself learning Alias because I'm not considering that I'm good enough as a designer. So I prefer to invest my time in becoming a better designer first, and then 3D maybe I will learn later. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm learning Blender, but it's a step by step. I prefer to be 100% focused on doing the best design possible.
I believe you're doing yourself a disservice. That over your time as a designer, you do understand 3D. It's just like you will not produce it physically in digitally model it. But I don't imagine for a second that you don't understand. I've seen your designs and your sketches as you are thinking in 3D. You're just presenting the theme and a three-dimensional image that a modeler can pick up on. So you're not sitting there with a complete clueless idea of what 3D is. And what I've seen from designers that do model as well is that what's wonderful is you can approach this in all different ways. Your approach is completely legitimate, and there shouldn't be a negative word said about it. It's absolutely a legitimate way to create a great product. It's a good synergy that you go for. But I've seen other designers that they'll create a language, a theme in a sketch that is quite etherical. There's not a lot there. There's a lot missing maybe in a sketch, but it conveys a certain sort of language, and then go into 3D and then investigate if they can get that language in 3D. But they're not willing or not capable, I don't know what the reasons are, to do the legwork that you're doing 2D wise to create a very concise image. They're doing that later on in 3D, but it ends up being a similar result. It's just a method of working. I don't think we should put anyone on a pedestal of any description. It's how you work. There are designers out there that model.
Yeah. As I said, my answer to those guys was, there is not only one answer.
No, there isn't.
And again, I'm gonna say it here to be clear. it's not because I'm saying it that it should be that way. It's just my way of doing things. And I have a lot of respect for designers doing their own model. Honestly, I have a lot of respect, especially to the guys who know what they are doing, and I can see that they know what they are doing. What I was saying about the people I was talking about last time with you was the people that, as you said, they jump on a 3D program and they have no idea of what they are doing.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing, is that it's not that one method is necessarily better than the other. And like Alan said, it is very impressive when you get
an absolute liability as our host.
Unfiltered.
It's really impressive if you get given a resolved volume by a designer. I mean, it's super impressive. What I think might have come across negatively last time is that there is this common misconception that the sooner you jump into 3D, the quicker you're going to get to a result. That might be true for the designer that's got a clear vision in their head and is able to execute that, and then is able to say, okay, there's a volume. Can you please clean that up? Or can you add details into it? Or can you resurface it? But the indication is super, super clear. What is not okay is somebody that goes in, working with a designer that is half-assed in their idea and has got a rough sketch on their page, which is okay. Sometimes that, can evolve into something awesome. But then to jump into 3D
and do that half-assed as well,
and do that half-assed as well, and send you around the on a wild goose chase, and then at the end of the day, put blame onto you for not executing something.
The point is it doesn't matter if you're doing it in 2D or if you're doing it in 3D. If you're having to work with others and you're not finalizing every single detail of a project, you have to be concise in order to get to the result quickly. I think you can go into 3D very quickly and start resolving ideas, but that's probably it can result in you just being confused in 3D instead of being confused in 2D. You just need to be concise and have a vision and stick to it, and it doesn't matter what discipline you're in.
For me, also, why I want to stick to that, first of all, because I think it's healthier, and because we keep socializing. And what those young guys should understand is that why are those companies asking the designer to know how to model? I have the strong opinion that it's because they want to cut budget, they want to cut time, they want to cut people. And I think if we keep going on like this, at a certain point they will say, "Oh, we don't need modelers anymore, because the designers are now modelers." So they're gonna cut people, and that's something that I'm strongly against about. I want to keep this relationship. I want to keep a team effort. I mean, for me, as I told you, the best experience I have about this project is not the car itself; it's the whole human experience we had.
The process.
And I understand, okay, there are budgets and there are stuff like that. But at a certain point, we should understand that we are human beings and we should share emotion and we should share experiences. And in my opinion, that's how you get the best result. If you are always on your own creating stuff, sorry, but there is no fun anymore. Yeah.
You need to bounce ideas off other people. Yeah. And when you're all working on the same page, hopefully you're all working on the same page. The end results are fantastic.
Complementary.
I don't know what the situation is in BMW now, but I do have a respect for how they worked there, where they allowed the designers to be creative and they didn't push them in 3D at all. This may be different now. I have no idea. I haven't worked there for a while, but there was a definite cut. There was designers designing and they were free to think, and they could be quite wild there. And sometimes they would produce bollocks. Mm-hmm. But more often, because they're seasoned designers there, more often than not, actually they came out with something that like pushed me, for example, and go, fucking hell, that's a pretty interesting thing and it looks cool. Let's see if we can get any percentage there in 3D, in real. And the end result is interesting and different because of that process where you have this cut. They are free to think, they're open. I know when I'm sketching, I am thinking a lot about 3D, and I have to sketch for hours until I can start seeing some wild interest in my own sketches. They're not. They can look too conservative because I'm always thinking this. I can't do that. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. And if you've got that in your head, that can get in the way. And so if you're working in a team such as yourself and you've got somebody pushing the boundaries of something like that and saying, I really want this aesthetic, and then I'm free to think, how can I do this in 3D? How can I get there? How can I get to this language and it be producible? And yeah, as I keep saying, not bullshit. Mm-hmm. And you end up with a product like this. That's how it works. It's a good process as well, and I saw it happen in BMW when I worked there, where there was this definite divide. It could have changed now, but when you have designers on the flip side, I worked with designers in Potsdam that knew 3D, and that had value as well. It had value. We got to the end results in a different way. Yeah. Not a better way, just a different way.
And that's why I'm saying it should not be only one answer. It should not be. Today I'm saying that I want always the relationship between a designer and a modeler. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's the best for me. But I accept that there are people that they want to do everything on their own, and that's okay. And also there is another big topic about that is the clay modelers. Now the tendency of OEMs is that they want to cut the clay process, which again, to me, it's a big mistake, because I love to final check, to check the car into clay and then to refine with the end of a human being, because I feel that he's bringing his own emotion and something that, again, my point of view, a computer cannot achieve probably. I feel that you cannot go straight from Alias to the production. No, sorry. And I know that there are gonna be a lot of people disagreeing with what I'm saying, but that's my philosophy. Maybe I'm emotional, too emotional, but I love seeing those guys working the clay, and I'm convinced that they are bringing something that a computer cannot achieve.
I mean, I know fantastic digital modelers. I'm a digital modeler, Sam's a digital modeler, and I'm not yet met somebody that isn't surprised when they see their model full scale. No, and as you get further on in your career as a digital modeler, you know what works and what doesn't work, and what looks good as a surface volume and what doesn't. But you have to see it in 3D. And when you see it in 3D, and if there is a clay loop, there's this level of this artisan sculpture and this feeling that they put into a surface that can only be done by hand. And I think it will be to the detriment of sculptures on the road if we lose them. We need that knowledge. We don't want to just cut them. We need that knowledge within the automotive industry if you want to create as aesthetically sound product.
That's exactly this aspect. That's exactly the artisan word is exactly what I mean. Yeah, it's. I want to stick to that because I think it's important for us as human beings to keep that philosophy of enjoying something that has been finalized by hand, because it's bringing a soul or something that we can't have with just a computer thing.
Just as a final point on that, our job is as modelers is usually quite a short is a phase that gets shortened and shortened and shortened. I don't want to turn around and say that you categorically say that you can't do this in digital. It's more efficient to do it in that last clay phase. But it is possible.
It is possible.
But I think in the future we're going to see. I still struggle with VR. I'm still not seeing it in the same way as I'm standing next to it. It's better, and I'm sure there's better versions of VR than what I've experienced. But we're still not there yet. In terms of the technology, maybe in the future we can bring some of this artisan sort of feeling into modeling quicker and easier. But at the moment, the best process is do everything in digital, mill it, and then have this clay modeler come onto it and add that to it, and that combination creates a great product. And I don't know what Porsche are actually doing, but they're some of the greatest surface cars that I've ever seen.
Clay model.
So, yeah, exactly.
I know from friends working there. There is always a clay phase.
Exactly,
always.
And you see it. They're just, for me, irrespective of what type of car it is, if I'm just looking at my job on the car, like how those surfaces are, I aspire to do that all the time. And I think a Porsche won't look like a Porsche if it doesn't have that phase.
Agree. And again, it doesn't mean that that there is no respect in what you guys are doing. I think again, it's complementary. I think you guys can achieve really amazing quality. I mean, this is only 3D. No, there is no clay in that. It's only Alias, and the result and the surfacing are flowing really nicely, and we are. I mean, we were really enjoying it where we were looking at it in VRED because we could see those highlights and stuff. But I'm fully convinced that we could have just give it a bit of spice, as you said, if we would have milled that thing in clay and refined those radii or those surfaces with the human being in. I'm pretty convinced.
On that subject, is there anything that you would care to highlight that you wish that you had done a little bit differently?
Oh, there are many things that I wish I would have done differently. I think that's also a big topic as a car designer. I don't think, and again, that's my point of view, you can never be 100% satisfied with what you've done.
If you are, you should give up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm, when we finished that car and all the other cars I've done, I was always like, okay, that's a good balance. It's never like, okay, I'm 100% satisfied. That's exactly what I wanted. No, I don't think that exists. I think it's a good balance of saying, okay, now I'm happy. The balance is right. I know that this thing I'm not a big fan of, but overall I'm happy. And this car, I would say that I'm 90% happy, but there are things that I would change.
But that's a very successful endpoint. I mean, isn't it? To be 90% satisfied. I mean,
it is.
Yeah,
it is. 90% is already is super nice.
And also the fact that you said, okay, that you enjoyed the process so much, and the guys that you worked with.
Oh yeah, definitely. For me, that's the best. That's the best memory I will keep about this project. It's not the model. It's all the memories that I have with the people I've shared this experience with. Because what I appreciate about this project is that we were the first achieving something to this quality and to this success in a free time period. So I'm really happy about that. I'm more happy about that than the product itself, and yeah, I'm happy about the fact that we all come from different area in the world. Marcos from Brazil, Martin from China, and Guillermo and I from France. And we've managed to combine all those different culture together, and we've managed to achieve something like that only based on the passion. That's the best reward I get from this project.
There's a music analogy, so I probably saved this for the wrong interview, but I mean, you enjoy music as well.
Highbrow bleed
There was
shit.
a highbrow bleed shit. There was a discussion between Mick Fleetwood and Dave Grohl, and they were talking about the fact that you can do everything yourself in a studio, like to create a song. You can write the song. It is possible that musicians play guitar, play bass, play drums. They do their own backing vocals. They mix it. They do everything. But he's like, you'll be far happier if you get into a room with a bunch of your friends and you do this project together.
That's exactly what I mean by keeping all those skills to different people. I'm not interested. It would not make me more happy today to say this is me. I've done this car on my own. I think it's quite sad, because then I wouldn't have shared all those nights, all those. I mean, what I told you going on the Shanghai track. I mean, what memories are those if you're on your own every time, you know?
Yeah.
All the loves that I had with Marcos, with Guillermo, with Martin, with Tom when he did the retouch, all those communications. You know, that's something you cannot replace. I think if you are on your own, it makes you more complete, maybe as a person, as a designer, because you feel great, but you are missing something. You are missing the relationship and the fun. I don't think you can have fun if you're on your own.
Andy can have fun when he's on his own.
What are you suggesting, Samuel? I don't need anybody else in the room.
No. Okay. So we do have another question. It's from. Have we spoken? Daniel Rauch sent 2 questions, right? But the first question I think we've asked already. The second one is: do car designers question their work of creating always new cars in terms of climate change? Because of what I experience with other car designers is that they have such a passion about beautiful cars that they don't think much about sustainability. I know it might be a hard question, because in the end we all want to design and drive a Porsche. Does he know you?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, but there are many people. I mean.
Okay, so the question is, in short, if you're thinking about the environment when you are designing a car.
Okay, we have already answered that question, but you guys won't see it. So I'm going to repeat myself. Of course, when we are doing a car like that, or any let's say cars for the passion, modern cars for the passion, I don't think we take into account this aspect, unfortunately. We are even though we are pretending this new engine is making less emission and stuff like that. Okay, cool, but as I said, for me, the greenest approach is if we would manage to give a second life to an old product. And to me, people achieving that today are people like Singer, as I said, because they are taking a product from the 90s and they are giving it a new life, and you can start reusing that product. And when you get your Singer, I think you are not considering that you are getting a car that has been refurbished, but I think you are considering that you are getting a brand new product. And for me, that's the greenest approach to that.
So you're referring to the product life cycle?
Yeah, the product life cycle, exactly.
Because some people, I mean, I have to say, it's probably no surprise because I'm a professional idiot, but it wasn't really something that I considered until I got to university. They were like, okay, well, it's great that, you're considering hydrogen or electricity as your powertrain, but how was that product made? And what is and what happens to the product once you've finished with it?
Exactly. I mean, sorry, but there are people that are saying because you are driving a car with an engine, with a combustible
Combustion.
Internal
combustion engine. Like people are looking at you that like you are a bad guy, but I would ask those person, I mean, do you realize that your car is actually more polluting the earth by creating those batteries and stuff like that than my car is doing? So I don't think that's a fake for me. Sorry guys, but electric cars, okay, it's good, but it's a fake answer. We are not solving any problem. We are creating new ones. Okay, we are solving some.
We're pushing the problem further down the road.
Exactly. But we are not. In any case, we are solving the problem. We are just, as you said.
I've got two things on that. No, okay, go.
No.
Okay,
please carry on.
First thing, again, another music analogy. Josh Homme for Queens of the Stone Age. He was driving he's got a Camaro. I think it's a 67 late Camaro. And he's had that car since he was 16. It's his first car. And he said that he was driving down LA and this guy pulled up next to him in a Prius and he was like, oh, stinky. And he had he had this whole big thing to say to him about him driving this car. And he was like, well, hang on a second, bollocks. Like, that car's brand new. You've just bought that. What happened to your old car? And what happens when the next thing comes along in a year's time that grabs your attention? I've had this car for the last 25 years. So like that's something to consider. Yes, maybe locally there might be more emissions in the air, but you have to look at the whole picture in its entirety.
The whole from zero to the end product process. I'm sure the internet will correct me if
they will.
I am most definitely probably going to talk bollocks here, but wasn't one of the most sustainable.
I've already talked about an exhaust pipe burning somebody on the head in one of the most beautiful cars ever. So, yeah, it can't get worse than that.
Well, let me try.
Okay.
Hold my beer.
Okay.
Wasn't one of the most sustainable cars Jeep Cherokee or something in terms of where the source materials are, its whole entire product lifetime, all its repairs, and then till its this end of life scenario is more efficient overall than a Prius or now the electric cars. I think going down electric is great for in a city. Air quality initially within locally or something like that, but it's just a push for propping up the auto industry or something, isn't it? Just to keep us buying products, consuming. To move the question more towards design in itself. I think one of the most sustainable things you can do is produce a completely aesthetically pleasing product. Like beauty is the most sustainable thing. If we look at cars that are still kept on the road, they tend to be the more beautiful ones. Unfortunately, yes, they do start like gaining value and costing incredible amounts of money for the average person cannot afford, like a Porsche, for example, of various ages from
Alan can.
Yeah, well,
no.
Some of us maybe like dream that we can, but in terms of designers, I think when we're like these really crazy hypercars and this, that, and the other are perceived as bad for the environment, and such. Like you've got Lewis Hamilton that doesn't drive his hypercars anymore. The thing is they're produced in such small numbers and they're such artisan, amazing pieces of technology, and some of them, it depends on what your taste is, but they tend to be quite beautiful.
I think
they're extremely sustainable then.
Yeah.
Whereas your bog average car is just that's mass produced. It's just when I'm walking down the street, it's offensive to see like so many cars parked down the side of the road. Yeah. And they're decidedly average. Yeah. That's not sustainable.
That's a very good point because, as you said, people have the tendency to blame the brands like we are talking about, like Koenigsegg, like Paganis and stuff like that. But sorry, it's wrong.
It's absolutely wrong.
Yeah, those guys.
Those cars, unless they're totaled, they stay around. They don't go into a Schrott park.
And
Garbage.
they also they don't get driven the way that, they're not necessarily being driven every
Yeah,
single
because
day.
they are bought as piece of art.
Yeah,
And so they are driven just a little during the year. So
and art is timeless. So.
We probably need to wrap up soon, but I will. What I do. Sorry, But another thing to maybe clarify on the subject is the fact that the product, where you'll be able to speak more informedly on the subject, but on the fucking hell, I can't talk. On the subject of thinking about the environment, as a designer, it depends, like there is a whole team of people planning products that you probably won't even get to meet in a big organization like that. So you can think about whatever the fuck you want, but your job is to create a certain product that the power chain's been chosen,
our job is to make it the most appealing possible, the most selling possible.
Right.
But we are not deciding the emission or stuff like that. And actually, I have to say that's why also I left OEMs. And that's a personal decision because it fits my way of thinking. I was feeling quite bad of seeing all those cars being produced. I mean, when I see all the main OEMs, they are overproducing products that are sometimes sadly ending up on a big parking lot because they are not bought by the public. And we are producing something like brand new, and it will never be used, and it will be recycled brand new. And that's a reality. I mean, if you make a bit of research on internet, you can find that the biggest OEMs, like producing mass product, like a big amount of cars, you see all those cars parked on a parking lot, brand new and not used and not sold because no one is buying them because there are too many brands and too many product per brands and not enough people to buy all those products. So and as a car designer, and I know, okay, that's what is giving us a job, but you have also to think maybe we are not doing the right thing. So that's why as you said...
So you do think about that?
I think a lot about that, and I'm disgusted about that, but that's our society. What can I do? It's like, it's the same with our phone. They are becoming obsolete, or they are dying because now they are programming the death of our product because they want people to consume. And it's a sad reality, but it's the reality of our society.
Yeah.
What can we do about that? We are buying a car, and after a few years, the car is becoming obsolete, or it's not answering to the new regulation, and it's pushing the consumer to consume even more. Is that the right answer? I don't think so.
I think it's very brave of him to take that decision not to work for an OEM because there's a certain level of comfort there.
Listen,
you only need to be better than what you were yesterday.
Absolutely, and I have to say that, Alan, I haven't made any secret about it before. The options that are available. Sorry, Andy wants to take over again. Come again.
No, it's okay. I think everybody heard it.
The options available to somebody like you with regards to the places that you can go to now, I think are you've got a lot of options, and you choose maybe in the short term the road that's maybe more difficult, but it's one that you believe in. And I think that needs to be respected, and I respect it a lot, and I think this guy over here does as well. And I am super excited to see what you have up your sleeve for the future.
Yeah. I mean, you guys will see, obviously, but it's funny that again you've used this word artisan, because that's one of the keywords I want to use for my future business. It's it's a word. The word artisan, it's really a word that resonates in me, and I'm against the idea of mass producing something that is becoming obsolete. I would be way more proud if I can produce or help to produce stuff that people that are buying it are thinking long time and are how to say, identifying to this object, not for the next few years, but for the next decades. Then I would be a complete designer. If I can achieve that the people that are buying my product or the product that I will help to produce, they can be as happy as they were, as happy as they are now in 20 years or in 30 years with the same product.
That's a very positive thing to end on, Alan. Thank you very much.
Then we can end up
Andrew, thank you.
Samuel.
Alan,
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you. Klaus.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very
Klaus.
much.
Yeah.
And thank you for bringing this beautiful piece of art along.
You're
Alan.
very welcome.
Okay, so.
It's a wrap.
Yeah.